This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
New York Times best-selling novelist Alex Kava and Erica Spindler on this edition of Conversations. Having a conversation with a best-selling suspense novelist is bound to be interesting. A conversation with two at the same time should be downright intriguing. On this edition of Conversations, we're pleased to welcome Alex Kava and Erica Spindler. Between the two, they have written over 40 novels that have been published around the globe. Their work has earned both critical and commercial success. Alex Kava is best known for her popular Maggie Odell series. Titles include Fireproof, Damaged, Hot Wire, and her latest, Stranded. Erica Spindler is known for her romantic thrillers. Such titles as Blood Vines, Watch Me Die, and Breakneck have captivated readers across the U.S. and, for that matter, around the world. Her latest book is entitled Justice for Sarah. Ladies, thank you so very much for joining us. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm just curious for both of you, how did you start writing as a career? How did it come about?
As a career, it took me a while. Most of my background is in marketing and PR and graphic design, and actually I was kind of at a crossroads in my life. Decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and I wouldn't recommend this, but I quit my job. And sort of while I was trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do with the rest of my life, what I wanted to do with the rest of my career, I decided to write a novel. And fortunately for me, it worked. I kind of gave myself a time frame. I told myself that if I wasn't published by the time that I was 40, that I'd get on with the rest of my life, I'd find something else that interested me, that I had to make a living doing. And fortunately, it took me about 1.5 years to write my first novel, which is A Perfect Evil. And then it took me another 6 months to find an agent, and then about another 9 months, I think, to find a publisher. And I kind of squeaked in under my deadline because I was signing advanced reader copies at BEA for my first novel 3 days before my 40th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I just made the deadline barely.
What about you, Erica? How did it happen for you?
I like to say I caught the writing bug because all my life I was going to be a visual artist, and so that's what I studied for, I trained for. I have an MFA from the University of New Orleans, and I got my dream job, which was teaching art on the university level. And then I got this really bad summer cold, and I went into the drugstore. They dropped a free Nora Roberts romance into my shopping bag. And I'd always been a huge reader. My mother instilled the love of reading in me. But I'd never thought about writing. Well, I read that book and then went on this reading frenzy of romances. And sometime during that frenzy, I just became obsessed with the idea of trying to write one myself. And the minute I put pen to paper, because I didn't have a computer at that point, I had to become a published author. I was literally obsessed with it. My family thought I'd lost my mind. It's like, you've studied your whole life to be an artist. What are you doing here, So, and I pursued it until I got published and never looked back.
As a child growing up, did you write?
I did. I hid my stuff. And I was a little bit different than Erica. I didn't tell my family. When I quit my job and when I was writing that novel, I didn't tell my family, and they thought that I had kind of gone off the edge a little bit because you don't have a job. What are you doing? I was delivering newspapers in downtown Omaha to make, and teaching part-time while I was doing this. And I really do think that my family thought that I had lost it. But that was safer for me to not tell and have them believing, that I'm doing the newspaper route and I'm teaching part-time and that I've kind of lost my mind. That was safer than telling them that I was writing a novel.
Yeah.
So, but I did write when I was a kid. Did you write a lot when you were a kid? I did.
I didn't, but what's funny is I have a memory of writing a little suspense story. I was like a 5th grader, and I wrote a story about a woman whose husband was trying to kill her, which is so funny, and it sticks so much in my mind. And yeah, I was massively clever because this is how he did it. They lived on top of a hill, and he put a big stone underneath her brake pedal in the car. So when she was going down the big mountainside, she died. But You know, that's the dark gift. That's being a little twisted
you'll have
as
to
fifth
ask her
grader.
about the dark gift in a little bit. Yeah.
So you obviously had a wild imagination even as a youngster, huh?
Yep. I used to write stories when I remember when I was as young as 11, 12, 13, and I would write them on the back of, I grew up in the country, so we would, my mom would always get those co-op grain calendars that had a page for every week, and she would give me the old ones, and on the back was a nice, fresh page to write on, and nobody would care that I did what I did with those. So I would take those from her and I would write on the co-op grain calendar. I'd write my short stories and then hide them, you know, under the bed. Nobody knew what I was doing.
Something.
That is so neat. Why the particular genre? Why did you choose that genre to write about?
I didn't choose it. It's sort of, the very first book that I wrote, A Perfect Evil, was about a case that happened in Nebraska. And I had happened to work at a small newspaper when that was going on. It was an Air Force person who ended up killing two little boys, killing two little boys. And 13 years later, when I decided to quit my job and try and write a novel, that was the summer that John Joubert was being executed. And what I remembered about that original story was not the murders so much as the feeling of going to work, because it was a community just outside of Omaha, and it was the community that I worked at the newspaper. And one of those small bedroom communities where people don't lock their doors, and now all of a sudden they weren't just locking their doors, they're bolting them and walking their kids to school. I remembered those feelings of fear, and the fear being huge enough to affect the entire community. And that's what I wanted to write a novel about. I wanted to write a novel about how it transforms people and how it transforms communities. And then shortly after Perfect Evil came out, a reviewer called me the newest serial killer lady. Oh. And I happened to introduce Maggie Odell in that book, and the publisher loved the idea of a series. Readers seem to really love that character, and so a lot of what I have done has been kind of accidental.
How did the Maggie Odell character come about? How did you formulate it?
I didn't. You know, I didn't even read series novels too much before then. She comes into that first novel at chapter 7, so she was never intended to be a series character. But again, readers really kind of attached to her, and the publisher wanted a follow-up book. I didn't even know how to do that. I handed in an entirely different book, and they said, no, we have to have another Maggie Odell. I thought, well, okay, I'll give them another one. And then they wanted a third. And then they wanted a fourth. And I actually found her quite annoying. I just, you know, I didn't connect with her at all. I just felt like I was being forced to write about this person that I didn't really even like a whole lot. But, you know, readers, you got to give the readers what they want. And so I kept doing that, and I started to, somewhere along the line, we changed from adversaries to friends. And it's worked, and I really owe Maggie Odell a debt, but it was not something that I planned at all.
Erica, how did you choose your genre?
It chose me, I think. I wrote several romances, and then kind of wrote a big Cinderella story, rags to riches type novel, and then it was time to come up with another story idea, and I just happened to it was set in New Orleans. It's kind of a big family melodrama, but the main hero in it was a homicide detective, and they're chasing a serial killer in New Orleans. And when I was writing those parts of the story, I just loved it. I mean, it just felt like the story was writing itself. So the next story idea I came up with, I was like, that was so much fun. I love that so much. I'm going to do some more. And then I did more, and then I did more. So, you know, now my books are suspense or thriller story mysteries with some romance thrown in.
Yeah.
You know.
Interesting. Yeah. And this is a question for both of you. Is writing hard for you, or does it just come easy?
Wow.
It's hard for me. We were talking about this at one of our events because I love to do the research, and the writing is the hard part for me. And oftentimes I have to tell myself, okay, you have to stop researching now and you have to sit down and actually write the book. And I've never ever felt like I have a process that works. I do it different almost every book. Now I finally have gotten to the point where I fill notebooks. I will have the story come to me in bits and pieces. If I hear dialogue, if I hear voices, I'll write that down. If I get an idea for a chapter, I will write that down. Because it used to be I would expect that when I get to that part in the novel chronologically, that I would just remember it. And of course, I don't remember that always. So my whole process has really, really changed. But the writing part of it is still very difficult for me. And it's a little bit easier. It sounds crazy, but I write a lot better in longhand.
Really?
Yeah, the story tells itself differently. It's just a whole different process. It's excruciating for me to try and tell a story on the laptop. And I will oftentimes write chapters and chapters and chapters in longhand and then have to key them in. And it works because then I do my editing that way, though, too. Yeah. But the research is the fun stuff. And now Erica's going to say the exact opposite.
I don't like research. I like the writing, you know. And a lot of times I'm doing the research and I'm just like, I can't wait to get to the writing. Yeah. You know, I get the minimum done, and then I'm finding out information as I go too, you know, because I've got to start that writing.
What is it about the writing that you like?
What do I like about it? I like the magic of the process. My husband told me once, people don't want you to say it's magic, but it does feel like magic because it just like these characters start talking in your head. They have their own personalities. You don't plan this stuff. It's like, and I think you would agree. It's like, I haven't thought of this stuff ahead. It just happens. The characters take over, and that is like magic.
When it's good, that's true.
When it's
things
bad,
happen. Yeah, but you have to admit, like a lot of the different plot twists or things that you go away from saying, "Wow, that's really strong." That's chances are it wasn't something that you planned ahead of time. It was something that you kind of came upon or stumbled upon, or a character took you to. And it almost sounds a little spooky when you're writing or you're trying to tell people about the writing process. But that's when you know that it's good, when it's the characters and the story reveal things to you that you didn't expect.
And when it's not doing that, you know that you're not into the story yet. You're not there yet, or there's something not working in the story.
And how do you overcome that when that happens?
Wow. Shop, eat chocolate.
Chocolate?
Drink wine.
That's true. You do kind of have to go away from it sometimes. But, you know, a lot of times being a writer is our profession. So, you know, people talk about getting writer's block and waiting for the inspiration. You don't, when you put out a book a year, you don't have that luxury. You have got to you've got to meet the deadline. You've got to do it. So oftentimes, you know, I'll write and write and write, and oftentimes it's crap and I end up having to throw it away. But sometimes that's what you need to do in order to get back going.
It's kind of like you're still in the game. Excuse me. I'm
Exactly. Or a nap works too.
Yeah, a nap works.
Let your subconscious kind of come to you and bring it to you.
Where do you get your ideas for books?
Gosh, I get mine from a lot of times just from the news. I mean, I'm kind of a news junkie. Headlines, something that catches my attention that I want to find out more about. And I think you're the same way too. There'll be something that'll catch my attention and I'm just drawn to it. And I've got to find out more because real life is so much stranger than fiction. Yeah. So I couldn't dream of some of the things that I read about in the news, and that's usually where I get my ideas.
I get my ideas from the news. I'm a trial junkie, so Justice for Sarah, you know, was really inspired by like the Casey Anthony trial and the Amanda Knox trial, and you know, the fact that they were both tried on circumstantial evidence. But I also have what I call the dark gift, and what that is something will happen in my life, and I have like this thing where in my mind I spin it out to the worst possible case scenario, and I've been doing it all my life, and I never really realized it until, you know, 10, 11 years ago, and I was like, why do I do that? You know, it's like we were renovating a house in New Orleans, my husband and I, and he was standing on a platform with this big board over his head, and he's hammering, and I'm standing there, and in my mind, I see him losing grip on the board, hitting his head, blood flying, hearing the scream. You know, it's like this thing plays out in my head. So I call that my dark gift. and that's, you know, meetings in coffee shops, a letter from a fan who claimed to be a 13-year-old girl. That's, you know, both of those things have sparked stories. So, yeah.
So that's the big story, but talk to me about character development. How do you get the nuance of the character?
That's a little bit more difficult. I've found that that was one of the most difficult things about getting to know Maggie. Because when I wrote that first book and I didn't intend for her to be a series character, I knew very little about her. And I also put her through a lot of confrontational things that, had I known she was going to be a series character, I wouldn't have given her, like an alcoholic, suicidal mother who she has to deal with all the time now. And I put her through a divorce that I had ended up having to go through it with her. And it would have been nice if it was just a one-book thing. But not knowing things sometimes helps too, because I've had to get to know Maggie alongside with my readers too. And people will say, well, how is it writing? Because this is the 11th Maggie. And it doesn't feel that way because it feels like I'm still getting to know her. So in that sense, I think you have to sort of feel like your characters are still living, breathing people that change and have new conflicts. And you can't really categorize them. You can't really just say, okay, they're going to have this little tick and they're going to have, you know, this little thing and this mannerism. They have to be someone who is constantly changing and surprising you.
Yeah, and they're defined, people are defined by their dreams too, you know, what motivates them. And, you know, to do it that way instead of, sometimes we think, oh, just, you know, the way they look, the way they dress. And those small things add up, but you're really defined by your childhood. Yeah. You know, I'm fascinated with birth order and how that creates character. But, you know, when it comes down to it, how the character, or what motivates the character to do what they do, don't you think?
That's very true too. You know? That's one thing that I found out a lot about Maggie by throwing her into situations and seeing, you know, what she's made of, right. You know, how she's going to react to a situation. In fact, back in 2010, I threw her into the middle of a hurricane down here. Right. In the Pensacola area, and it was because I had gone through it. Now I want to see what she's gonna, what's Maggie gonna do when she gets thrown into the middle of a hurricane. So that's true. It's a lot about what the character presents when you throw different things at them too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The name of the book was
Damaged.
Damaged.
Damaged. That's right.
How did she react to the hurricane?
Well, it was interesting because she was with one of the deputy directors sitting at the coffee cup, talking to him about it, and he was talking about the plans for it, and he had brought her down for another case, and he was apologizing that it looks like they were going to have to weather out the storm. And she said, well, how bad can one storm be? So there you go. Yeah, yeah. So she found out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Hurricane Ivan, which was had a huge effect on the Florida Gulf Coast and the South Alabama coast, so certainly everyone remembers that. Do you ever meet someone or become friends with someone and you say, I'm going to make that person a character in my book, or that person would be a good character in one of my books? Does that ever happen?
Always.
See, and I was going to say not so much.
I think I use bits and pieces of people. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever really plucked somebody from real life and put them down. Well, I take that back. There was somebody in Damaged that I do that with. Walter Bailey is based on a real person in Damaged. But other than that, I don't know that I've actually taken a real life person and plucked him out of real life and dropped him into a novel.
Does that person know that he's?
Well, he is since gone.
Oh, okay.
But he's based on Walter Carlin, who came down here from Philadelphia to go to flight school, was in the Navy for years, was a commander, and he and his wife lived here until 2008.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have characters that you've. I was thinking of your coffee house guy.
Oh, the real life.
The
You're
real
right.
life
You're
killer.
Right,
yes.
right. The real life killer. I had an incident in a coffee house where I call it my wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, this really nice young man that I write in the coffee house mostly, and you know, I said the wrong thing, and he, in the most gentlemanly, low-key way, kind of went off of me, and he took out, you know, he had a picture of himself with wearing Army fatigues with an AK-47, and he said he'd like to blow all the Volkswagen Beetle driving, tree-hugging people off the face of the planet, and that his profile was similar or the same as Timothy McVeigh's, the Oklahoma City bomber. So really scared me to death, you know, but, and that's the kind of idea sometimes that I'll be like, what scares me? What scared me about sitting there with him and him going off that way, you know? And the next time I went into the coffee house, he was there, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. And, you know, I realized that he knew he had revealed himself to me. And it was that I wanted to write about. I wanted to write about that wolf in sheep's clothing. And that's a familiar theme in my books. And that's, you know, to me, that's so scary, because we go through every day, and everybody's just like us, right? We all have the same moral values, the same sense of what's right and wrong, but there is that wolf in sheep's clothing.
Because both of you write the type of writing you do, obviously they're very interesting characters and criminal element, I guess, for lack of a better description. Why do you think people are that way? What do you think it drives people off that?
That's what's so fascinating. I mean, that's one of the things that fascinates me about, you know, writing in the genre, is what motivates people to do what they do. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I know. I mean, it's a variety of things. My character Maggie Odell, at some point, I think I even have her saying that at a certain degree, it's simply that evil exists in the world. And, you know, every one of us has the capability of committing evil acts, but what prevents the good people from not and the other people from is kind of that fine line.
Right.
Yeah, what causes some people to have the brakes to stop it and others not to?
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
to react to the exact same things that other people react to. Because even if you look at serial killers, a lot of them have siblings, and they're not serial killers. So if it's genetics, then that doesn't make sense. But if it's environment, and they've both had the same sort of growing up, dysfunctional, whatever it might be, environment, their siblings didn't react to that environment in the same way. So it's kind of a difficult question. It's a tough one to answer. I don't know if anybody has that answer.
Well, you know, it's just the psychology of a sociopath, that they do not feel empathy, that other people don't have any value to them, really. But
It's
what
what they
causes
want.
that? It's what they want. It's all about them.
Interesting, interesting. Would either one of you ever see yourself writing something outside of your current genre?
I think so. When I wrote Whitewash, which is also based here in the Pensacola area and the Tallahassee area, it was a little bit different. I mean, it was still murder, but it was murder and greed, and it's more of a political thriller. So I had a good time writing that one. It was very different. And I think both of us have ideas all the time that are outside and would love to be able to do that. And sometimes when you're trying to do a book a year, you don't really have that luxury to just kind of go off and write other things. You want to give your readers what they want, but at the same time, you know, you'd love to just go out and do all kinds of other things too.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I know your fans, they have to absolutely admire your work, and because obviously both of you have sold an awful lot of books, but I'm curious, who do you admire? Who do you like to read?
I like to read Alex Kava.
I like to read. As one of the instances where I do read. In fact, Erica and I were with the same publishing house for a while. I mean, she had been with them for quite some time, and they were my first publishers, and I was really tickled to even have a publishing contract. And so I had gotten a box of books from them showing me the authors that they represented, and Erica was the only author that I recognized in the box. And so her book, Shocking Pink, has always been sort of one of my favorite, because that was my first book that I read that I knew I was going to be an author like her. But I read across the board. I do read a lot of the competition. So I read Karen Slaughter, I read Lisa Gardner. J.T. Ellison has written e-novellas with Erica and I love her characters in her books. James Rollins, Lee Child. I read quite a bit in this particular genre.
Yeah, you kind of have to keep up.
And that
You
too,
know,
you do. You
see
want to know what the
what's-
competition is doing.
Right, what's the
Absolutely.
competition doing? And it takes some of the fun out of it. You know, that
It does.
it does.
But I am a huge reader, and I love to read. So, and I don't understand authors who say that now that they're authors, they don't really have time to read, because it's sort of like being a chef. You know, it's now that you're a chef, you don't get to eat gourmet food, or so I do just sort of. But I'm a very, very slow reader, and so it takes me a little bit longer. But I always have a book going.
Yeah. Have either of you had your books made into movie or television, or is that something you would even want?
Oh, it's bucket list for me, but it's
I've
out
had,
of my hands.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've had a couple of close calls, but nothing solid enough. And that's kind of one of those elusive things, because you know, you have all the time there are people asking, but it takes something more to push it to the edge too. So, and I've gotten to the point too where I'm not sure I want to let go of Maggie to Hollywood before I'm finished with her, because I kind of like the idea of people not having an actress in their head. That's one of the things that I love about the reading experience, is that everybody brings their own perceptions of who the characters are. But once you have Hollywood do it, if it's great, it's great. But if it's somebody that's not.
yeah, there's this joke that was going around Facebook, and it's "Don't judge a book by its movie." Have you seen that
No,
one?
that's
Because
perfect.
sometimes they just, I mean, they condense it
Absolutely.
and they cut out all the good stuff. But
Absolutely.
I'd still like to have one made into a movie
It would be
or
fun.
a TV show.
Absolutely. I'm getting short on time, about a minute left. So what's the future hold? More books?
Now we're
books,
speechless.
Now we're speechless.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so, because
Yes.
it's you've written more than I have, but I feel like I'm just sort of hitting my stride.
That's wonderful. Erica Spindler, her latest book is entitled Justice for Sarah. In about 10 seconds, just what's it about?
It's about a woman whose sister was brutally murdered, and she was charged and tried and acquitted, but everybody thinks she did it. So it's 10 years later, and she's back to find justice for her sister, Sarah.
Alex Kava, her latest book is entitled Stranded. In about 10 seconds.
Stranded, Maggie Odell is hunting a serial killer who gets a supply of victims from rest areas and truck stops, something we can all relate to.
Yes,
And she ends up becoming almost sort of the hunted in her own way too.
Ladies, thank you so very much for joining us. It was a real pleasure. Thank you. By the way, you can keep up with Alex and Erica on their respective websites, alexkava.com and ericaspindler.com. And of course, you can follow our conversations online at wsre.org/conversations. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Take great care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Support for this program is provided in part by these corporate sponsors. And by viewers like you.